What's up, everybody? Welcome to RFL Talks, Recovery, Faith, and Life Lessons with your host, Chuck Nouns. That's me. Here again, a bit about my history with drinking and how it's not. I came from a family that drank, and statistics show that if your family has drinking problems or there's alcoholism, chances are you will. It's a little bit of nature, a little bit of nurture. And I grew up saying, I'm never going to drink. Me and my sisters were like, we're never going to drink. We don't want to, be like that. Waste our time, money, be emotionally, draining on the family, whatever. Of course, people turn 21, 18, other people, people start drinking at parties and things, and if it's fun. And so they do that and they fall into that stuff. And for me, I avoided it so well until like I was 20 or 21. I didn't go to the parties. I didn't go to the garage parties. I didn't hang out with people that drank. I played a lot of video games and I was good at them. So that was my anti-drug. If anyone remembers those commercials, there's a clip of Halo CTF, and it's like, guys, who's got the warthog? They capture the flag, and there's no one to pick them up in the warthog to capture the flag, and it was like truth. CTF, capture the flag, is my anti-drug. And I was like, yeah, that's me. Video games, my anti-drug. Fast forward to 20 and getting orders to deploy. I go to one of my first garage parties and get a taste of Captain Morgan, get buzzed and like it. Probably did get drunk. I didn't know what that was, but I just know I had a really good time. And so I kind of was open to this now. I was introduced to a girl before my deployment, and one of my first meetings with this person, was at her house party while her parents away. There was alcohol and ping pong and beer pong, and I never did any of this stuff, and I didn't know, it was supposed to be, pseudo Christian person or whatever, and I was just newly believing in Jesus at that time because I was going to be going to Iraq eventually, and not sure if I was going to die in war. About 2008 or so. And so, yeah, so I had a good time and I drank a little bit and whatever, I didn't get drunk or anything. But after that deployment, I was 21. That girl was not there for me, at the end. So I was a little cold hearted. And when we came back with a bunch of Marines, we were all, deactivating whatever in Camp Pendleton, just doing nothing, just doing a little training, turning in gear. But we had like 2 weeks in California, and we had lots of liberty, lots of time to go out to the bars and whatnot. And all the Marines knew my sob story. They seen me with my high hopes for a relationship while I was in Iraq, and then coming back, she left me for somebody else, whatever. And they're all like dissing her, like, like that's messed up, man. And so they took me out drinking. I got plastered at a bar. Vaguely remember karaoke. I vaguely remember, barfing out of a taxi, getting on back on the base. But after that, I started going out with the guys and drinking. So all my life, I'm saying I'm not drinking, not drinking. 20, dabble in it, and then 21, bunch of Marines come back from deployment, and I just go to town with this stuff. And when I got back home, my birthday's in January, so all my friends are in college. They're like 20, 20 or 21 almost. But I have the earliest birthday, so they're like, "Yeah, come to URI, come to this party. Oh, by the way, can you pick up some stuff, whatever." And I did that. I didn't want to. I'm a people pleaser, and I want to drink myself. So that came back that summer, and I went to the bars. I had drinking buddies all the time. I went to parties, and just drank fast and hard, and had a great time. And I told myself, first I was a little icky, feeling like, oh crap, I'm just, I'm getting drunk just like my dad, or I'm just becoming my family. But I tell myself, like, I'm not that bad. Like, I don't black out that often. I only probably blacked out 5 times in like my 3 to 4 years of like drinking hard. I told myself I'm never gonna drink and drive. I'm not gonna miss work because of this, and I'm gonna hang out with good people and be generally safe. And so I justified it. But the same time I got back from this deployment, I also was going to church. Someone told me about Jesus before deployment, and because I was afraid of going to hell, meeting my maker, whoever was real. Like, I didn't believe in anything. Like, specifically, I thought it was all made up. But I was kind of afraid to meet whoever, like, kill someone in Iraq, maybe a child, whatever, war, self-defense, something. But then maybe dying, and then going to whatever judgment there was to whoever existed. And I wasn't sure who would judge me okay after killing somebody. So I wanted to get right. I want to, so I talked to faithful people, and this wonderful young couple that got married at 18 to do the right thing by God, and whatever. Um, Told me about Jesus. They gave me a Marine Corps Bible. So I came to faith before the deployment, read the Bible like kind of solo on the deployment, and then after the deployment, I started drinking hard, and then I also started going to church on Sundays. But part of me doesn't want to tell people I drink. Part of me doesn't want to, I remember thinking, if I tell them, three things will happen: either I'll corrupt somebody, some young adult or some young person, I'll get them to come drinking or whatever, and I don't want that. Secondly, they might reject me or judge me and be like, "Ah, oh, sinner," or "You can't." So I sat in the back, showed up late, came early, missed a little bit of worship, and then bailed out before anyone could talk to me. I went a whole summer with God, like trying to get a hold of me at the altar call. It's like, do you feel like you're partying and you're living with one foot in the world, one foot with God? You're filling this void with drinking, partying, all this stuff, and like, it's a God-shaped hole that only God can fill, and relationship with Him can fill. And I was like, I always felt a tug, like that's me. But they were like, come get prayed for, come forward. And I was like, if God is God, He'll get me in my seat. I remember just sitting there, never moving. And then halfway, through the summer, one of my good drinking buddies was like, he said to me, after one night or one day, he's like, I feel like we go to parties, we meet girls, we have fun, we drink, we spend money, but we have nothing to show for it. I feel like we're in a rut. I feel like I'm in a rut. And I was like, well, I don't feel that way. And I go to church on Sundays. Do you want to come? And so we came, and again, good service, sermon, good message in the Bible. And then at the end, they did an altar call. And this time, like, I felt the tug again, but I was like, I'm not getting up. I'm not moving. But my buddy looked at me and was like, that's us. They're talking about us. And I was like, crap, I'm not going to stop him from getting, faith or getting saved and here, responding to God, drawing closer. So I was like, all right, I'm going to respond to the altar call too. And we both talked to somebody, some pastor, and, they prayed for us. And I told him, like, I don't know if I have a drinking problem. And so he prayed for me, and he encouraged me to go to this meeting. I didn't know what it was. It was 12-step, Christ-centered 12-step, and on Wednesdays. And I didn't know if it was what it was or whatever. So I showed up, my buddy didn't, and it's a full-blown 12-step meeting. If you've never been to one, it's big circle or big room, lots of chairs. One person is the chairperson. There's rules, guidelines, but essentially it's addiction recovery, all centered around these 12 steps. And however, this is the spiritual education one. So it's Jesus and the Bible is the center, and instead of like AA or, where they say higher power and it can be anything. And I was 21 and not sure what any of this was. And I was like, I don't know if I have a drinking problem, but I'm going to keep coming because of the stories. But little did I know that in the next 3 years, my drinking would get worse and worse. I would start drinking and driving because there was nobody to carpool with. And even the people I did carpool with, like, I was fine with someone else driving drunk, just as long as it wasn't me. It was like kind of an agreement. If we crash or whatever, you'll be, I'm okay with it. But that's a crappy friend move, because if they get a DUI or the risk is on them, it's horrible. But I also knew they were connected. So like, if the cops would probably let them off, not connected like mafia, though it's Rhode Island, it was kind of connected to the township, firefighters, cops, and EMTs, they all cover each other. I mean, I was a veteran, but they had, more closer ties. Someone's father to someone else's father. So I took that risk, but I felt horrible. I remember breaking the barriers and rules slowly but steadily. And drinking, led me to, meeting people at parties and getting in relationships that just weren't that good. And I was, a young man drinking and having fun, and that just led one thing to another. If I was to say anything, is like, learn from my mistakes, is that some people, know how to drink responsibly, and some people go too hard, too fast. And, they either, they should not do it. They're probably prone to alcoholism and overdoing it. And so for me, I was definitely more likely to be overdoing it. And I worried my mother and my family. Some of my friends were a little worried about me. They were like, oh, he's a crazy Marine. But I drink everything fast, and not just alcohol, whatever's in front of me. Water, I kind of don't drink water enough, but coffee, things with sugar, energy drinks, it just goes down. I chug it practically, big gulps. And so, my drinking got a little bit worse and worse, and I was going to church and stuff, but I always felt convicted on some level, like I'm doing something wrong. But I told myself, I lied to myself, I'm like, I'm not a drunkard. I don't black out or barf often, or much. And I told myself, like with the relationships I was in, I was like, I'm not sinning. I'm faithful to one woman at a time, for the most part. And that's not wrong. I'm loving and being caring. But little did I know that lying to myself and justifying, minimizing things, cost me plenty, and it costs those relationships plenty. Like it's what the Bible calls, sin. It's missing the mark or transgression, where you break agreement, and you hurt another person by doing too much, and you cross barriers you're not supposed to. And I cross those barriers with God. I cross those barriers with people, with myself, especially when I said I'd never drink, especially said I'd never drink and drive. I said, especially when I was dating people and doing things that only married people should do. And basically I said in my head, I could marry them, but I had no intention of doing so. And so my life was spiraling in the wrong direction. I might have been going to church, but I was avoiding mentorship, fellowship, or any kind of like accountability to what I was doing. I was going to a Rise, 12-step group and never raising my hands. Every week I'd go and I never raised my hand with any clean time, but I was listening and learning. And I knew that if I wanted to quit and when I wanted to quit drinking, like this is the place to be. So fast forward 2 to 3 years later, 2008, first deployment, came back 21 drinking. And then by 2011, I was 24 or so. And that I was going on my second deployment, and I was repeating some dumb mistakes again with, dating people and going away, meeting them at bars versus, somewhere else. And so that second deployment wasn't drinking, we're away from everybody, Afghanistan, and I'm reading the word. And I didn't know at the time, I didn't have a lot of faith, I had a lot of doubt. And I was reading word very logically and interpreting it my own way. But while I was reading the word in Afghanistan, I got a voice kind of spoke to me, or heard it like, in my mind, like, if you love me, why do you keep sinning this way? And I broke down and cried. At that moment, I could not lie to myself anymore. My drinking, my carousing, my womanizing, my sexual immorality, all the stuff I'd been doing, I could not justify it anymore. I knew it was sin. And that God, in that moment convicted me and made it clear as day. If I loved him, why do I keep sinning this way? I immediately reached out to the girlfriend at the time, was like, when I get home, I'm not drinking and we're not doing any, sexual stuff. Like I'm committed. And I'm 3,000 miles away. I'm in Afghanistan, a war zone. And she's like, I completely support you. I got your back. She wasn't a believer or anything, she was like open to it. She'd go to church occasionally, but she wasn't, it's kind of like growing up in America, growing up going to church. You don't have to believe, you just go through the motions. You're open to it. Just like I could marry these girlfriends, but I had no plans or intentions to do so. It's like, I'll definitely do it in the future. Maybe do it in the future, but never get there. And so when I got home, I was done with drinking. I think but I did not I put barriers with me in drinking, but I did not put up proper barriers with the girlfriend. And so by the end of that, a few months after fighting and hating what I was doing and messing up, I did break up with her. But yeah, so drinking, just want to say that nowadays it's 2021, and I haven't been drunk in over 8 years. But in recovery circles, when you can't consider clean time unless you haven't had any of the drink, not a drop. And I had a few relapses of like a shot for some graduating college, and then I kept it secret. Or I was playing volleyball at this tavern, and I eventually did have a cup, and I felt so guilty, and I finally admitted it, and I was like, but the first time when I got back from Afghanistan, I quit drinking. I was 6 months clean, and then I went to Ireland, and I had a half a Guinness. I proved myself okay because I had a half a drink and gave it away. I'd never done that. But when I came back and I told my my recovery group about it, eventually they were like, hey, if you have a drinking problem and you're drinking, you don't have clean time. And so I had to give up my 6-month ship. And I was shocked that I was already lying to myself, minimizing my habits. So, but today, I think it was just last June, celebrated 4 years of marriage. And I used my marriage, my engagement date, or my marriage date as a new recovery date, for alcoholism and alcohol and basically and other things that I'm dealing with. But my life since being sober, since giving up the drink, I've saved a lot of money, though I've wasted it many other ways. I've been safer, more responsible, and my life has improved greatly. Like in recovery circles, they say the day you start picking up a substance or habit and stop dealing with life on life's terms is the day you stunt your emotional growth, because you don't know how to deal with life without the weed or without the painkillers or without the alcohol. And in some ways, I'm lucky I started drinking at 20 because I was kind of emotionally mature in some ways compared to starting at 12 or younger. But as I've grown in self-awareness, I have other issues that I've started doing at a young age to avoid problems, mitigate risk, and confrontation. And so I've been a people pleaser. I've been a avoiding conflict kind of guy, and I like thinking in black and white so I can make decisions and not really have to have anxiety or worry about it. And nowadays, as a 34 year old man, I realize these thinking patterns cause me anxiety, and I'm working on awareness and correction and renewal of my mind and God's word and mentors and different and counselors and different podcasts has been amazing. There was a small group my friend did called Deep Wounds, Deep Healing, and it was amazing. And I recommend 12 steps and group therapy and to anyone, especially Christians or people of faith, because the 12 steps is a practical way of living out the Bible. I would say that if anyone thinks they have a problem, because I said this for 3 years, I was like, I might have a problem. I'm not sure if I have a problem. If you even had that thought, you might have a problem. Chances are you definitely have a problem, and you're just in denial and minimizing it, negating it, whether it's with weed, alcohol, cigarettes, eating, weight, whatever it is. Like, if you think you got a problem, chances are you do. And I'd rather have you learn from a mentor or other people's mistakes rather than your own. And there's plenty of support groups and people out there willing to help you, especially at local churches with honest, pastors and people that are following Jesus and trying to honor him by loving God and loving others. And so for drinking, that's a little bit of my story. And lessons learned, for me is like, I think abstinence of alcohol is a great idea. I know for Portuguese people and some other cultures, drinking is like second nature, and some people honestly don't overdo it. Some people don't like getting drunk. Some people like just do it culturally. They know their limit. And I'm a black and white guy, all or nothing. So for years I was like, no drinking, never again. And now I've backed off, and like within reason, I don't encourage certain, people to drink, especially like if you don't know them or, you don't want to influence people. Be like, drinking's fine, because there's an old saying, like, what you indulge in, other people will like overindulge, especially your kids. If they see you drink or they see you do something, they might overdo it. So that's it for this little bit session. And yeah, this is faith. This is recovery, faith, and life lessons talks with Chuck Downs. I'm hoping to kick out different content. If you guys have topics or things or questions or comments, please send them in. PM me. I'm gonna have Instagram account, I'm gonna have YouTube, I'm gonna have podcasts, and I'll probably set up an email address for this. Want to leave you guys with this. Proverbs 3 is one of my life verses that I hold to, focus on. Proverbs are not guarantees, but they are prescriptive. If you do this, you'll most likely get that. So Proverbs 3 verse 5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own understanding. Think about him in all your ways, and he will guide you on the right path. I've prayed that and just read that over my life and reminded myself that many times over the past 10 or so years. And God has guided me. Like, if you honestly stop and think, what is the wise thing to do here? Do I do this or do I do that? God, what is the good thing to do here? And you actually pray and you seek him, he will guide you on the right path. It's a pretty obvious question. Is this good or is this bad? When you apply it to God, should I shout at my wife? Should I respond in anger? Should I make this dirty comment on Facebook? If you actually think, or pray, chances are you will get an answer. But this sentence says, do not trust or lean on your own understanding, but rely on God and trust on God for everything. Think of him in all your ways, and he will guide you on the right path. If only we could do that more often. If only I could do that more often. I have been. And life has been getting better and better. God bless you all, and hope you tune in soon, and hope to be kicking out more of these videos.